Welcome back to the CRSL podcast for episode 3, talking about Brains versus Brawns. We have our two beautiful guest stars. We got one with video, one with not. We got one drinking a Coors Light for all of us. Should be a Modelo, but rest in peace. Steph and Miggs, do you guys want to introduce yourselves real quick?
So my name is Stefan, aka Noisy, and I'm the captain and in-game leader for University of Utah.
Hell yeah. Miggs?
Alright, I'm Miguel. I'm the homie Miggs. I am the captain, in-game leader, and partial coach of the UTSA team.
Cool. And then we've got our classic not-so-pale boy this time, Urine.
Yeah. Change camera angles. Much better now.
He doesn't look like he's being flashbanged, and it's wonderful. Cool.
You can't get to me anymore.
So we've got a whole slew of questions here. We got about an hour to fill to talk through all this kind of stuff and talk through all your wonderful strats without disclosing too much for this summer season. However casual it may be, everyone's always got their strats. So first of all, what got you into Rainbow Six? Specifically, what got you into collegiate Rainbow Six? It's one thing to pick up the game. It's another thing to join the collegiate scene. We'll start with you, Steph.
So when I started, I was a freshman in college, and just saw the club, and they introduced me to some FPSs. Originally a COD player, so I've got like 4 years in esports with COD. The COD team wasn't that great. The Rainbow team was much better, so I decided to stick with the Rainbow team, and the game just kind of grew on me.
Nice. Which Call of Duty was that?
At the time, I think it was COD Black Ops 4.
Ooh, not even the good one. You missed Black Ops 3. Sad day.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Cool. And then, Miggs, what about you?
For me, I got in when I transferred into UTSA as a junior for an engineering program. They were trying to get esports going, but every time I asked for Rainbow Six teams, they were always turning that shit down. They were like, well, we don't have enough players, or we don't have enough people interested. And finally last spring we were able to match up 8 players, and then we had 2 more latch on at the end. We finally got it going this spring 2019.
Nice. And when you say they had trouble, was it just because they didn't have enough players, or was it just because it was too small of a game, or was it because of the good old terrorism and violence?
No, UTSA, they've had their esports program since 04, 05, with StarCraft.
Is that club just the club program?
That's crazy.
Yeah, but it's just a club. But
okay.
most of the people that go to our school are just league players or Overwatch players.
Yeah,
they're recently expanding into CS and Siege.
Nice. That blows my mind that a lot of these clubs, it's just we recently expanded into CSGO, and I'm just like, guys, CSGO has been around for literally 15 years. What took you guys so long? All these clubs started out as League of Legends, and now they just are slowly being oh yeah, FPSs are cool too. I guess Overwatch was fun. Let's try something more serious now that Overwatch is dying.
Yeah, some of the CS players, they told them just go play ESEA or Face It League, just because they didn't have enough, or they didn't think they had enough following at school.
Yeah.
The same with Siege. They were well, we don't know if we want to field the team. We don't know how these leagues are gonna go, because I remember it was when the old NAUSL.
NAUSL, that's classic.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then CR6 season 1, they were well, we don't know if that's possible or if we'll have enough players.
You guys were the same group as Akron in CR6 season 2, right?
Yeah, we got smoked game 1.
Okay, that's why I remember you guys. I remember that team from season 1 for some reason. I can't remember why.
Dude, no lie. We probably had dry run 3 hours before that match, and we probably had maybe actual 1 or 2 scrims as a team before that. We were still trialing of those 8 players, combinations a week before that. And when we played them, it was the first game and it was on stream. Oh dude, it was an embarrassment. We got flamed by the caster too.
Dude, that's a
man grilled us.
That's a throwback. I remember seeing you guys' name when we were doing broadcasts for that, and I was like, UTSA, okay. That wasn't a known school at the time at all. So I was just okay, it's kind of cool. We'll pick a random Texas team and go from there. That's crazy times. But I guess that kind of goes into our next thoughts. who, like, you talk about these rosters and everything that have been around for so long. What makes them good or what makes them bad? I know you guys kind of focus a lot on like the strategy, but you guys are both coaches for your teams as well. Strategy is one thing, but building a roster is another. Can you talk about kind of like the story of your teams? Like Migs, you seems like you have quite a long story. You've been on your roster for about 2 years now, and just like the progress and evolution of these rosters. Steph, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So, our team has been through a lot. Season 1, 2 years ago, we did not make playoffs whatsoever, and every season since then, we've made top 32, and now top 6. So, I think a lot of it has to do with just kind of getting our team name out there on the university campus and getting those more experienced players and just kind of helping them progress into like what an actual team looks like. So me and my me and Studson are the two that really organize everything for our team, and so we break down everything right from the get-go and tell them like scheduling and how it's going to work and like what sort of roles they need to be putting forth for our team and what we need. So for us personally, we're super heavy on the strategy. We've got a lot of individual talent, like average plat 1 and stuff. So gameplay and such is not really a big deal for us. It's more about like we're counter stratting is what we like to do more so than often. But yeah, so that's the University of Utah.
Nice. You said definition of a team too. Just kind of when you have these new players coming on and like showing them what it means to be a team. Can you define a little bit what that is?
Yeah, so like a definition as a team is like communication is probably one of the biggest aspects of a team for me personally, at least, because it's not just in game but like out of game. Like, is your schedule full, class, work, stuff like that? Like, we need to know everything that's going on in your life so that way we can like plan accordingly and make sure that everyone's on the same page and we're not like putting people under too much pressure or hindering our performance or skill increase. So
Yeah. Does education come first for y'all, or is it more?
everything is about education. If you have homework, if you like, yeah, education is 100% first. You will skip a scrim or a practice if you have homework. So that's 100% fact. Like,
God bless.
So I think that's kind of what like threw us through the washers for finals and such. That kind of really hurt our practicing and scheduling. So, but other than that, I mean, it was great all the way through.
Good shit. And then Migs, you want to talk about the evolution of your roster over time?
Yeah, so over time we started like weeding out whatever wasn't truly there, like dedication wise. So like of the original players, it's just me and BZ left. But most of like our team basement that was like developed, so like from our first semester, spring 2019 to last fall, was just bringing in the incoming players or incoming students that were like desiring to join in the esports club, or even the team, like Vlad, Prime. They came in. We had a player that was on the football team that played with us for the fall or last fall. But we just developed into like whatever our strats are based more on what our team strengths is.
Mhm.
So like if a player can't play 4 or 5 different operators, we're not gonna force him to play a role that he's not comfortable with. Just try to build around what we have that is useful for their abilities.
Okay.
Like more or less like going into matches though, counter stratting is a part of it, but it's also playing our own game. Try to dictate pace.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting concept there of building around your team, and it's very important to do that. How do you kind of feel out what each one of these individuals like skills and abilities are? Like, it's one thing for them to tell you it's like, yeah, I'm an entry fragger, I'm a diamond entry fragger. I feel like anyone can click heads, but it's a matter of the kind of figuring out as a coach what each one of their individual strengths are and how they play these strengths together as a team. Can you talk a little bit about like the story for that? And either one of you guys can pick up on this one first.
Let Steph go first.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, when we do practices and scrimmages, we usually have a spectator that helps us with these sort of scenarios to like pick and understand each player's like what they might say versus what they actually are in game type of thing. A great example of that is IGLing is not a very easy thing to do. And so IGLing is something that I do for my team, and it's literally only because I have the loudest and I talk the most. Like, so,
Dude, that used to
so
be me in
basically-
Overwatch back when I was like doing like semi-pro Overwatch. Like it was literally because I was Pharah, so I could be in the sky and see everything. This is before Pharah was nerfed into the ground, and I could like, and I was the loudest and the most obnoxious on the team. Like that,
yeah,
IGL
exactly.
easy.
So like, since we're all individually skilled, and a lot of us like don't have a preference on like play style other than like a couple of us, we just kind of move around our positionings and strats based on like, oh, I'm loud and I give the most callouts, so I should be IGL, so therefore I'll play this role type of thing. So, yeah.
So we are getting reports that apparently you have a game right now, Noisy. Is this true?
That is true. That is true.
I like the dedication.
Dude, yeah, you know what? We're just gonna play through this while I talk. Zero audio, no comms. I got it. It's easy.
all right. I'm excited to hear
We're
the
rooting
scrim.
for you. We're rooting for you.
Is this like an official like game, or is this like a scrim?
It's a summer game.
Oh boy.
It's a summer
Okay.
game.
CRSL
Okay.
game.
So it's a semi-serious scrim then.
Yes. Basically, yeah.
All right. While you set that up, let's give Migs a chance to kind of talk through the kind of figuring out player development.
So a lot of people will be like, oh, well, I'll play Ash Jaeger or I'll play Doc and Sophia. But you have to like put them into the event. Like you're gonna have someone else join them in, see how they're gonna push. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I'll entry through Hot Tub Wall on Clubhouse, or I'll come in through Garage on Consulate, come up Yellow Stairs. But then like when you actually put them in like a team aspect and against a team that's fully set up and strategized, it's not the same as ranked. A lot of them can't entry like they think they can in ranked.
So true.
You'll have them you'll try them on Sophia or Nomad, and then like you'll see that they can't hold flanks, or they can't go in and take out numbers or take out Evil Eyes, bust out utility. So no, you slowly weed out what they can and can't play and what roles. Like a lot of people have come in like on our roster. They're like, oh well, I'll play anything you need me, and I'll ask them to play like Nomad or like Buck, and they don't know what's floor or openable or not, or what is a good spot for a flank watch. What time to set up on flank drones.
Yeah, does that mostly come from just like you coaching them, kind of talking them through? Because you hit the nail on the head, and I've heard Swindle talk about this a lot too. You can be a ranked monkey anytime you want, but playing in a competitive environment is very, very different. Can you kind of talk through some of those differences?
Yeah, like a lot of the times, like I record most of the practices and most of the matches, and then like you guys will upload them. So I'll go back and look like, hey, we missed a drone here, or like mid match I'll be Discord spectating like a bunch of them, and going through like if they're missing like little details, like hey, there's a drone over there on like the top rafter by the tires in garage, or like hidden stuff, or like hey, there's an ADS right here that you're not seeing, that you're about to waste 2 nades just because you didn't see it. I pay attention to whatever they're not looking. Like they can focus on the gunfights, and then I could call out for them whatever little utilities hidden in the spots, or like what's left soft, like a reinforced wall that should be reinforced, stuff like that.
Yeah. Steph, do you have any insight, or are you still setting up your game over there?
Nah, I'm literally just getting an invite and playing. So, basically, something I like that he touched on was like him sitting on the sideline and pointing out all those little individual things, because like we also have someone that does that for us too. But more so like, the things that they look for is different in respects to what Migs looks for. So like Migs is looking for the basics of like, the fundamentals, like get rid of drones, get rid of utility types of things. Whereas like what we look for are like the openings, the gaps, like are we actually counting the players? Are we keeping track of them type of thing? So I think that's something that helps us our team individually more so than small utility type deals, which is still super important, especially every round. So
Yeah. Now,
So you guys look a lot at like the bigger stuff. So like, yeah, as you said, you look at how many players are like on site, or somebody will call out where somebody is rather than immediately take the gunfight, so that you can assess whether you want to push something. I assume, right?
oh yeah, so like our team focuses on objective over kills every single time. So like people that are heavy roamers that are across the map, we either like if it's like in our way type of thing, then we've already got the strat and like down packed to where that guy is not a problem and we shouldn't be losing lives to that. We usually go by the statement of don't lose a life to land you don't need. So that's like super important for us. Like if you die somewhere and we don't need that land, you're instantly getting called out, and we're making sure that you're staying focused, type of thing. Because
Yeah.
the name of the game is get the diffuser down, not get that kill. So yeah.
yeah. And when you say, because like sometimes getting a kill is like trading is part of a valid strategy. How does kind of like trading and like giving your life for the greater like objective kind of play into that?
So I think trading in a sense for us when it comes to objective is more about like so I'm the thermite man and diffuser taker, so like usually once we're set up and in place, I'll be the one who like eat the C4, and then we just like have that lined up who the next player is to go straight for the next plant. Or if we have like people set up for the C4 tosses underneath or like in different levels type of things. So especially with all the verticality in the game and how different teams play vertically, really helps us. So
Yeah. Migs, do you have any thoughts on that?
I agree on that. You don't want to give up a life, because what if that player doesn't win his gunfight? Just gave up a free number. You're gonna let them retake. If you already have site control, you can get the bomb down.
Yeah.
You're not gonna give up
yeah,
numbers for free and just let them retake and lose all your post plan advantage.
exactly.
Cool. Let's take a pivot back from talking about like this grand strategy and kind of like player development and how that works, and let's talk about y'all as individuals. We had prepped a whole slew of questions here, and I want to talk to you guys about like what kind of strategic side of Siege really appealed to you. Like what analytical mind really kind of, where did Rainbow Six kind of scratch that itch?
Yeah, so for me, I am super, super competitive, and I take everything in the competitive world pretty seriously. So, like, I'm the one that goes through the VODs, I make the notes, I go through and kind of preemptively examine what maps we're actually going to be playing, what maps are going to be banned, what order, um, and then how we want to take it. Like, is this team um are they good? Like, is their play style countering to our play style? So like every single aspect of the game, I think inside and out, and that's kind of what really leads me to the strategy side of Rainbow is the fact that like um your seeding and who you're playing and stuff, like every single portion of that matters and like as a variable to your success on your game. So usually I spend like 5-10 hours outside a game planning for the Friday default or Saturday default play day. So,
Damn. So this is pretty much a
um,
part-time job for you.
yeah. So like, not everyone on the team does that, of course. I just give them what's important and what they need to know, so that way they can focus on their schoolwork and get their stuff done, and we're all ready and on the same page for play day.
Yeah. And you're on the main roster too, correct? You said you're in-game leader Thermite?
Yeah, so I'm the like hard breach intel defender operator type
Nice.
role. So like since I'm the IGL, I usually am leading the push on attacks and getting all the information as possible on defense, so that way I can like make the shot calls and just try and push us towards like the best route in game.
Yeah. It's a good place for a shot caller. What about you guys, Mix? What appealed to you on the strategic side of Rainbow Six?
So I used to be a high school football player. I used to be a captain and outside linebacker. So I used to have to analyze like offenses, VOD review on that, and so that just translated easily for Siege. With a lot of the current pros I played with on Xbox, a lot of them, taught me the ins and outs. Like, hey, when you're playing Siege, look for this or look for this kind of setup. Or like, hey, these reinforcements here is gonna tell you he's playing like this far back, and so on.
Yeah.
And so like that just started like picking up just because I was used to it from football, going back and sitting for hours watching videos, VODs over and over. It just easily translates to Siege.
Yeah.
So on like for this, I'll sit here and watch 2-3 hours a day, depending how deep in the season we are. Like once we got into the playoffs, I was sitting here for like 4 or 5 hours a day.
God damn.
But depending how early I got off of work. Like when we played Akron earlier in the season, I was watching about 3 to 4 a day, like different matchups. I'll go look through like spreadsheets, like different leagues too, like what they're banning, what they're playing, what their typical operator bans are in matches. So like going into scrims, instead of doing whatever we would be comfortable banning, we're banning whatever they ban just to get rhythm into it.
Yeah.
Like FIU is probably like the only team we played this semester that was banning like Thermite on like hard breach heavy maps. So there we needed like a little practice when we'd go into scrim. So instead of doing like a Thatcher ban or doing like a Valkyrie ban, we were going with like Thermite and going with like Maestro.
Yeah. What are some ways that you kind of dig through these stats and analytics? Do you rely mostly on like the individual leagues kind of presenting their own stats, or is it like how do you scrape the data from all of this gameplay footage?
I go based on like teams that they've played. Like when we were playing Akron, we went off of their CRSL games, like what against FIU costed them, which was a bank game. It was 8-7. It was just a heavy roam game, and roam clearing. So when we played, we took Akron to bank. We lost 7-5, but their defenses, we were clearing IMAT within like 30 seconds. Him and CJ it'd be a 3v5 or 3v4 with 2 minutes for us to work with, you know. So it's just based on what their playstyle is, what we're countering it. Like for that matchup specifically, I saw Prod only played Maverick and Maestro if Thatcher's banned. So we went with the Mav ban, and with the Maestro ban, he couldn't play Echo to save his life. He couldn't play Valkyrie. And they had him on Hibana. He could like barely get the hatches open. Like he was losing drones early. Like the Echo drones were gone in like the first 30 seconds of the round. And he could tell you because he told us like after the game, he was like, I didn't know how to play Valkyrie at all. I didn't know how to play Echo.
That's a problem with specializing for you.
So, like I'd go in and just see like who we're against they're playing. Like against Utah, they played Coastline. They played Coastline. We don't play Coastline. We weren't touching it. So, that's Akron's best map. Get that out of the way.
they play coastline at all costs if they can.
Akron didn't play Border or Consulate, so we were just already knew in our heads if we're playing Akron, it's Bank Club and Cafe in any sequence. So just practice those 3 maps all week.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. How does it kind of go into like because map banning is a whole skill in and of itself. What's some of the mind games that you guys employ into this? Because I know like strat hiding is a big thing, but now with having CRSL last season showing almost every single game, you can't hide your strats effectively anymore. You can't hide what maps you go to, especially like as more of these leagues are doing stats. How are some ways in the future that you guys are kind of thinking of the game of map bans and the game of choosing where you want to go on these kind of things as these leagues become more open?
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with like how each league also runs their map bans, because like for instance, you were talking about how all the VODs are out there and all the maps are out there and such. And there's no really hiding your strats. But at the same time, I think there was only like I think at most 5 maps total that were played, and then but like 3 or 4, like there was definitely a top 3 majority that were picked almost every time. Just like how Migs was saying, how he was like, these 3 maps are gonna be played, so like how do we play for those maps? So when coming into map bans, you definitely gotta watch their VODs and kind of like ask around what their map bans were, what the other teams' map bans were, and just kind of do your best with the each individual leagues. Like, do they do 4 map bans and the last 3 and you pick? Do they do 2 bans, 2 picks, 2 bans, and the last map type of thing? So
Which one's your favorite map band style?
so mine is definitely the 2 bans, 2 picks, 2 bans, and then last map. Mainly because it definitely like it allows for people or players to like show their strats for the map that they've been planning. Like so for instance, like I would say Consulate was a map that wasn't really played much in the league overall. And so, like, if a team like keeps that in their pocket all season long, and
Akron.
then like all of a sudden, yeah, exactly. Akron's a good example. At the end, where they were able to have that map slide past all 4 bands is like super huge for them because they had been pocketing it the entire time, you know? So like, is this team banning this map repetitively because they don't like it, or are they actually saving it? And then the team that you're facing, they rely on you to ban that map, and then all of a sudden you don't. So, for us, the way university that we do map bans is purely based on we don't like to allow teams to play their bread and butter too much. So like we're instantly banning that map. And then the next ban is something like along the like their play style. So like their bread and butter is out, and then if they're better with roaming, we're taking out bigger maps. So if they're better at anchoring, then we're putting in bigger maps. So it just kind of depends on the team and their play style.
Makes sense. What about for you guys, Migs?
For us, it depends. So, like for example, with FIU, they hid Consulate all semester long. So like when we went into that one, they had watched us play A&M the day before on it, or earlier that day on it, and we had played them. We played them twice in the Final Four, and both times it was the same maps. So going into it, we were like, all right, well, then, this is what we need to adjust. And this is what, but as well, they're also going to do their due diligence, going to adjust as well. So it just comes down at the end of what maps you prefer. If you're confident, you take them to the exact same 3 maps. What you're going to change to better situate. That's all on your team, all on what their confidence is. Because you can easily tell what teams play what 4 or 5 maps. Like for us, we were strictly just throughout coastline. We were like, all right, we'll be decent at 6 maps. We'll be really good at 4 maps. So we have room to choose. We'll have our auto ban regularly, and then from there we'll go based on what the other team's comfortable playing.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these teams, last semester were going on coastline. Frag heavy map. They're not going to go and strategize. Clubhouse, Consulate, or Cafe. Going into it, hey, you ban coastline. There, half of their maps are out right there. They can't frag out. They can't just strategize and counter strat.
Yeah. It sounds like there's kind of like this elite circle of people that you watch out for, and like people that are coming into the league, and it kind of helps a little bit too, I think, when you have a very controlled environment where it's limited to like 32 teams, or it's like 8 teams in your group that you really have to worry about, and it makes it a lot more interesting and dynamic for you guys to scout and strategize. But it also sounds like you guys get a lot of your information just purely off of gossip, pretty much. So it's a lot of like that he says these, she says kind of thing, where it's like, did you play on border? Like, I hope you played on border. You told me you played on border, kind of thing. And it's like the inner circle of like these scrims that are happening. Do you find yourselves constantly scrimming against like the same kind of partners, or like what's some of the strategy that goes into choosing your scrim partners?
As of this last season, we decided that a lot of the teams in the college league, no offense, but like a lot of the teams in the college league just can't perform to like what we feel our level is at, and if we're being real,
Go for it.
Agree with that, 100%.
so like the way we get our practice in mainly is from like CL qualifier teams that are like really trying to go hard and like make a name for themselves in like CLs or pro leagues and stuff. So like we get a lot of our practice from different outside teams.
Makes sense. What about you? Makes you guys in the same boat?
I agree. Like going into the semester, we were once we got our team settled, or because we had two new players come on, one from B team and one was completely new. And so our approach was like, all right, we'll scrim a bunch of college teams, the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and our luck of the draw, most of the teams we scrimmed were in our group for CRSL last semester. So they knew like going in, like we were smoking all of them in scrims, so they knew once we had the group deciders that they were like they didn't want to play us at all
They're
on,
like,
like
we're
on
gonna
what
get fucked.
maps.
Yeah.
But it costed us the first 2 weeks, like the first two matches against ULL and UAH. But once we played LSU, A&M, UT, ASUB, and NAUB, like they didn't know what other maps we could play other than like Clubhouse and Bank. Like once we took them to like Cafe or Consulate, like they weren't ready for us.
You guys
And
really
so
found your groove in the second half of the season too,
yeah, so
if I remember correctly.
yeah, so like we were sitting in the bottom half because of those first two losses, and then like we had to win the last play day against UT to get into playoffs, and it boosted us to first seed because our group was so tightly because everyone in our group scrimmed against each other before groups were decided.
Was that just
But
because of your
once
proximity to one another, like just locally?
just well, yeah, and scrim hours, most of us are scrimming at the same time.
Yeah.
So like us, we're scrimming 9 EST. Most teams, if it's not 7 EST, they're not scrimming.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is so true.
And so what we started doing, we were just doing CCS discords, and then a lot of CL players that I know, we were scrimming against their teams. A lot of pros would get a couple of their like 3 pros and like 2 AMs with them, and try to put us against that, just to give us against other play styles and other strats.
Yeah.
That most of these college teams, they'll practice maybe 1 scrim a week at most.
Yeah.
2. So they're not really giving the quality college teams good looks.
Well, you guys
Yeah,
are out there
and-
hungry for more and more scrims. You guys are how
Yeah.
often do you
Yeah.
guys scrim? Is it like, are we talking like 3 or 4 scrims a week kind of thing, if not more?
So last semester we did all 3 leagues. So we would do 3 scrims and then the 3 league matches. And then Sundays would be our free day. So everyone's doing their homework on Sunday, whatever they have left. If we're free, then maybe a 1 or 2 map scrim.
Yeah. So you're scrimming every day except for Sunday.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
And then if someone had like, hey, I got an emergency project coming up, either I'll fill in for the scrim, or we take the whole day off.
Yeah. Are you guys playing
just-
like best of 3s or best of 1s in these scrims?
Most of the scrims are either 2 maps or best of 3s.
Okay. Damn.
There were a couple that were 3-4 maps scrims, and then like whenever we had the drafter tournaments going on, well, we take advantage of that, could use that as glorified scrims.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Walk away with a free $200. Easy.
Hey, 370 the week 1.
Easy. What about you, Noisy? How often do you guys scrim?
So we scrim about 2 times a week,
Mhm.
and that's basically about as best as we could get. Because scheduling was really hard this last season.
Is it scheduling with your
we just
players
had-
or like scheduling within the
Yeah,
scene?
yeah,
Okay.
no, with players like classwork and such.
Yeah.
So like, I would say we shoot for 3 scrims a week, but if we can't, then that's no biggie. We definitely do 2 mandatory scrims, and we kind of like discuss like these are the days that we will be scrimming regardless. So please don't plan anything on these days, type of thing. And then it's like up to me to figure out who we're playing and like just kind of get a scrim together for that.
Yeah.
So those are usually like 2 maps. Towards the end of the season, it's like 3 maps though, so that way we're really pushing our endurance. Endurance is huge, especially in the later season.
Yeah.
When it becomes like best of 3s and then double elimination brackets.
Wait, you don't want
so-
a best of 5 2-day tournament?
Oh, that would be
Best of 5 double
That would
elimination
be-
2-day tournament. Let's go.
yeah, that would
Don't
be
ask me to run
pretty
that.
intense.
I'll have to consult with the head admins about that. No.
I'm not running it. I will not be there to help. That's too much work.
That is a long
I
tournament for
will
everyone.
I will say about like the Final Four, like the first match against FIU was on a Thursday, so that one was fine. But like the Saturday game against A&M was like mad early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys usually prefer
was-
to have things in like later afternoon and go late into night, or do you prefer things in the morning?
Yeah, probably like 4 p.m. I feel like the glorified like ideal time.
4 p.m. and
See, I
then.
think
Yeah.
you gotta
Well,
realize
four-
you're talking to people who play video games.
Hey,
So-
okay,
Yeah, sorry,
okay.
so-
The hard
like,
part
if
is
I-
like, as a
90%
tournament
of us
organizer, like
sleep
the
in.
standard is like, let's start an event at like 10 a.m. and it's like, cool, awesome, and it's 10 a.m. Pacific most of the time too. So the East Coasters get to wake up a little later, but then the Pacific people are all pissed, and it's like. It really is making me think, like, as a tournament organizer, to pivot more towards, like, okay, let's start this at, like, 2 Pacific time. And it's like, if it runs until 1 a.m., people are up that late anyways, especially with Corona right now. Everyone's sleep schedules are fucked. And so it's just, like, it's interesting to think through it.
Like the
That
A&M
is
game,
so
I was
true.
watching from work. Like it was at 11 a.m. Like even or at 1 a.m. or 1 p.m. Because A&M asked me, they're like, "Do you guys really want to play at 1 p.m.?" I'm like, "Well, dude, it's scheduled. You can't change it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when we played our regular match against them, it was like 8 or 9 p.m. at night. Like that's ideal time for all of us.
Yeah. I like
waking
just
up
watching
to observe
Noisy's
that
screen
match.
when he gets flashbanged.
Dude, yes. I know, right?
It's like
Hey, we try to end that match pretty quick for you, Wyron.
Well, that was tough because like I wasn't even supposed to observe it. I think our head observer was asleep and missed the game.
Yeah.
So
Elijah's sleep schedule is not ideal. Cool.
this is more of an off-topic question, but we've been talking about the strats, and a big thing in esports is tilting. So does tilt affect the strategy like in game? So if somebody tilts in a scrim or in a match, does it affect the way they play, and does it affect the strats in match? So do you have to work around them?
Yeah.
one of
So
you, sorry.
tilting, like, I mean, tilting is definitely a huge factor. So something we were talking about earlier before the podcast went live was UAH and how that team tilts pretty easily. And like, so for our team, we factor that into our play. And so sometimes we'll be a little bit toxic with our picks, like Clash and Monty and such, just to like throw those particular players into the tilt mode. Another example for us was IMAT. IMAT is actually super easy to tilt and throw off. Like, give us 2 rounds and he's cussing up a storm. But like, so like, it's really simple to get kids to tilt. You just gotta watch your VODs and their Twitch channels, and you just gotta press all the right buttons, and that'll win you a couple of free rounds. I mean, it just throws off their entire teamwork and play style, and it really just gives you the upper advantage a lot.
I really do think people's own Twitch channels screw them over sometimes because it
Oh yeah,
it shows you where you can push their buttons and get them
Big-
to tilt
big
off their
facts.
game.
and like, no, like this also applies to us because like I stream every single one of our games, and I'm the IGL, so everything is literally there from my perspective, like the most information you could possibly have. But yeah, like something that our team works on a lot is the tilt factor, because we know that if we're playing for the tilt factor, so are other people, right? So that is something that we try and aim for in our scrims, is to like eliminate our own tilt and understand that sometimes stuff happens. So,
Yeah, I've watched a couple of your guys' streams in the past, and like, I think I've talked to you about this before, but I've always been impressed because if you guys see that you're losing around and that you're tilting, you guys will take the break. You'll send somebody outside or just to hide in a random spot on the map, and you'll take the
Yeah.
time to de-stress.
So
and
like
it
exactly.
out.
So like if we're in a round and we got absolutely demolished and smoked, or like we're down like 0-3 or something, we'll take a breather and like kind of try and analyze the situation and like what we're doing wrong, what are they doing better, and just kind of like, are we just not on our game right now? Are we tilted? And just kind of like take a moment to reset the atmosphere and mood. how we play.
Virus just chimed in in chat saying Noisy doesn't tilt. He just gets sassier.
These are factual statements.
What about you guys, Migs? How are some ways that you deal with tilt, or in this case, tilt the opponent?
Usually teams like that you can tell quick are usually the aggressive teams. They're not used to being hit in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Like New York Tech was one of them that we got like money tilted out of his mind.
Money
It
is
was-
so funny.
Man, that man ripped a new one in all his teammates, man. But
Ooh.
like you could tell they lost. We had a Vlad disconnect twice on third map, and both times the 4v5s they lost. Like it was a 4v5. Like we had 4-man. They lost both of them. One of them being like to win the series, just because this kid was talking the most on like map 2. Or he was like, "Oh, I'm out here. I carry this team." He had one frag. Like what? Like he was like, "Oh, you got like." I went back and watched the VOD on his POV. He's like, "Oh man, you guys aren't droning in for me or nothing. How yeah, no one's there to get my trade. No one droned this corner." Like no, he just jumped down like cafe skylight, buck open into piano, and then like we had someone just swing that corner from like bathroom to pixel and just fry him. Or
God.
he'd rappel upside down at a bakery and just get wiped. And then just like no intel, jump into small bake, and then someone else comes swinging from the long haul. Like that kid was just like talking the most. He was like, "Oh, I carry this team." He like dropped a breadstick there. On the final map, he dropped like 8 kills. But like what's his name? Mac had like 17. Like, bro, you can't be calling out your teammates, saying they're carrying you. You're running in and dying immediately. Like you're not running for yourself. So like teams like that, they're just easy to tilt. They're not used to, having someone else and shoot back at them.
See, that's why I play
Like,
Monty. I'm my own drone. Life's easier that way.
I know when we played Akron, like, we didn't hear their comms because we had a third person caster or spectate.
Mm.
But we were clearing out Matt so quick that you could tell it was lacking their performance because if they're losing their 2 big guns, DJ and him, in like the first 30 seconds, and you got Irma, Prod, and Joseph holding like the rest of the site with 2 minutes left of pressure. Like most teams will like crumble or they'll have like internal fights. That's where like teams like us or Utah will capitalize.
Yeah, cool. We talked about this a little bit earlier, and I remember you hinted at it too when you were talking about your football experience, Migs. Mentorship. Who do you guys look for strategy? Do you guys have any like higher up friends that you're talking about like CL stuff? Do you have any like CL coaches you guys talk with on the regular? Who do you look for, or where do you look for any kind of like strategies that are emerging from the scene, or is it 100% on your own? Are you just kind of in a little bubble and you just do all your research on your own?
So for us, we're stationed in Salt Lake City, Utah, and we're fortunate enough to have like met up and talked to some of the SSG team members. So we get a lot of info from them and help. That helps us quite a lot. But usually we get our strats a lot of times from Pro League and just kind of like watching what works best for them against like kind of a more general take. Because like most college teams are pretty standard in how they push and take stuff or hold things. So we just kind of look to Pro League. Every once in a while we'll throw in something chaotic that we come up with ourselves. A lot of times that involves shield play, so like Blitz, Monty, Clash. So like if you ever see like shields in the play, that's us versus like an SSG roam or something that you've seen on Pro League type of thing.
What about you guys, Mix?
I'll just say it's funny that he says like the SSG room, like 5 different teams tried running that on us like the first 3 weeks of
yeah,
of the
it's like
semester.
everyone knows how to counter it now.
I hate
But,
people
yeah.
who just play it.
Well, like I'm an OG SSG fan. Like when Redeem was on the team, like since he was my day one.
Migs,
with,
I
like, the
remember
Xbox
when I
days.
was working for SSG, I remember your name would come up every once in a while, way back when, and it took me forever to make the new correlation that you were part of UTSA when I joined like CRSL. And I was like, oh shit!
Dude. When I met Sean at DreamHack Austin, like it was just me, my boy Rhino, my boy Randy, and King. So like the 4 original like SSG fans, the 1% on match day votes. Like so like at first when I like removed myself off the starting 5, I would go to Lycan and Redeem, ask, for tips like how to go about like approaching strats or how to go about counter striking like at first, how to like build a foundation. And from there, like, once they gave me some insight, like, hey, you gotta look for this or how you gotta think about like building a castle, like what are your foundation bricks? What's the ideal play you want to build around your team? And from there, like I just started building upon that, seeing what fit our play style. Like I'm not gonna have someone roam third floor cafe if they're not comfortable playing in that tight space, like by cocktail bar or in the confined space of freezer with rotating into like bathroom without getting pinched. And so a lot of that, Lycan and Redeem, like they gave me a lot of like insight, and then a couple of CL players that I know that gave me like other insights. Hey, look for these syntax because there's a lot of stuff that pro teams don't do because they don't consider it upper echelon. But even though if they're kind of like ratty moves,
Yeah.
or kind of like scummy moves,
Yeah.
like they'll work. Like if you have someone just hide out in like bumfuck nowhere of like the other side of the map, like crawled under a desk or something, and just 45 seconds left on the clock, go hit the longest flank you could possibly find. And like pro teams won't do that. Pro teams will be like, oh, we already have our roamers, they haven't been cleared. We either play utility 20-second meta or we're playing, they're already planning send the nitros over and send one flanker. Like, so there's some stuff that pro teams won't do that, I've noticed others like small teams, T2 and T3 teams will do, that, like we've picked up on. That'll just like helps me build what we can and can't do for our team. Not everything our team can do, because not all our players are that caliber of player.
Helps you build out a playbook. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. How do you guys account for more of those like ratty players, especially in the college leagues where things are usually a lot more ratty and a lot more crazy? It's one thing to go in like what you're talking about, like the pro league. You can account for what your opponent's going to do because you pretty much have a very similar playbook, and they're going to do X strat, you're going to do Y strat, and it's how you counter one another in the actual gameplay. But how do you compensate for the players that have like there's a meta, there's like how people talk about it in like card games is this like you have like everyone can recognize a deck, and it's like as soon as I see you play like 2 cards, I know what deck you're playing. And it's very similar with like strategies, but when you are like in lower ranks, it's actually harder to climb because they'll play cards that you've never seen and you have no idea how they synergize. How do you compensate for that in Rainbow Six?
So I think the way that our team compensates for that is oh, that's a tough one, honestly, because like rat and monkey plays are just like they're on a different level, right? So like they're kind of hard to counter. It's more just about like knowing that you've got to drone that out and understand and like count those players, right? Because if you get all the information in the game about what these rat plays or people that are wild, then you kind of can formulate like what they're gonna do or what their objective is, right? So I think for us, it's more about just like in-game adjustments and making sure we're actually calling everything out that we see, rather than like preemptively planning for that.
Makes sense. Migs, do you have any insight?
All right, I'm not gonna lie, I was distracted by the DM that I got.
Someone just slide into your DMs in the best kind of way.
He wants a shout out on the stream. Shout out to Jake and his underagers that are a bunch of rats when we scrim them. Oh.
Oh, jeez.
So I know like when we played a Shuridian, for sure they were running a Braxton strat with like have the Mozzie and mutes, hold down all archives on bank, and then Vigil roam up top in CEO. And luckily one of our players had seen that stuff before. Like I personally hadn't seen it, but I told him like, we'll do our traditional top down clear, have someone hold lobby from repels or from loan office, and then have our 2 normal droners and the other 2 pinching up top, corralling. We cleared that pretty quick in like a minute, and it was a strat we had never seen before. And the next round they sent a flanker on us, and we still won that round, but like we couldn't figure out initially where he ratted out, because we had a guy coming from loan office, which is the most ratty spot in that lobby aside from ATMs.
True.
We had drones come from archives and from CO, so we knew he wasn't in archives or by the couches by the west windows, by the big garage windows. So like the next round, Vlad had a drone somewhere set up in lobby that it was looking dead at the guy ratting in ATMs. And we just had a guy come rappel on the opposite side windows of lobby, just upside down rappel and just kill him. Like the guy was just dead trapped in there and he didn't even realize it. So a lot of these teams will try like rat tricks that work in ranked, you know, and it's easy to pick up on because the round before that he flanked with a minute left. So like obviously you weren't in sight originally because we have people holding down blue. The only way up is main stairs. Other than that, like we are, yeah, you obviously weren't in sight. So it's easy to identify where they're ratting out, if they're ratting out or if they flanked. And so teams like that are just try to do like tricks like that, like you can tell like, hey, they don't really know how to play this map, or they don't really have any actual strategies that, you know, take time to develop, or their play styles.
Yeah, makes sense. So you like to? It seems like you two have a lot of like awesome experience. Well, both talking with Space Station Gaming, which is really makes me really happy to hear as a former SSG employee. But moving forward with this, how do you recommend that new players get into kind of like this strategizing mindset? Because there's a lot of new people out here who love Rainbow Six. They have the same mindset as you guys, but they have no idea where to start. Especially because the verticality of it, there's not much support from the community in terms of like YouTube videos on like these are what the strats are, like this is breaking down the strats. Like sure, there's one or two strats, like people doing that, but who do you or what sources do you recommend for people to start digging into to learn more about strategize or how to strategize in Rainbow Six?
So, for beginners, I think something that might help is like a YouTube channel. I think he goes by like Mr. Reaper or something like
Yeah,
that.
Reaper underscore. Yeah,
Yeah.
he worked with the Redeem on Rogue.
Yeah, exactly. So that guy, he posts a lot of videos and he'll do like breakdown videos and analytical videos. So like if you're really curious about getting into it and starting up for your own team, I would definitely highly recommend you go and watch like some of his videos and just kind of like adjust how you guys want to take that because he does it in a very analytical sense and not every team is super analytical. So just kind of take that for what it is.
Makes. Would you recommend
Yes.
Reaper pretty much, or do you have anything else?
Yeah, because I was gonna say like since I have like inside feedback on Reaper from like Redeem, that he's top notch when it comes to analytical work. And Reaper said it recently that he's not going to do any analyst work anymore. That he'll do like coaching, but he still uploads analytical work that he does on stream or on his spare time on his YouTube. Aside from that, like I look at Seth or Easily Super and Easily they'll do their own breakdowns of odds on stream, stuff like that, or other pros too as well. And then most pros are friendly. Like if you go up into their chat, ask them, hey, how do you go about improving on this, or like, hey man, I can't improve on this, and it's not my aim, like I don't know how to approach attacking a site like this, or how can I improve as a roamer. Like most pros are approachable, and most coaches and analysts as well.
Yeah.
Lycan's pretty friendly, he's always one you can go to. Data from TSM, people like that, they're always approachable.
For sure.
So it's always about going out of your way and act, like if you want to learn, you got to put in the time. Like you're not just gonna wake up in the morning and be like, oh well, I know the game in and out now.
Yeah. That's something that we always talk about when people want to get into esports too. They're like, I want to do esports. I'm like, cool. Like, what do you want to do? Like what do you want to put time into and grow and like establish and talk about? Like, to come to me after you know that kind of stuff. And it's very similar to what you guys are talking about, the coaching. Cool. Well, we're coming to the last 5 minutes of this. Do you guys have any personal things that you want to talk about, or any kind of like shout outs that you want to do? Or I've got a couple more questions we can go into here too.
I guess for the University of Utah, one of our coaches are leaving because he's graduating this fall. He's got projects he needs to work on, so I'm gonna go ahead and shout out Studson. Awesome dude, always been there since day one. Appreciate all the work he puts in for us.
God bless Stud. Migs, you got anything you want to shout out?
I want to shout out the whole UTSA team. Like the boys put in their faith into me as I put my faith into them. Like week in and week out. Like, that there was points in time like in the season like where like, hey, this strat's not working, or this and that, and like, you know, we'll go back to the drawing board and we'll look at it like, why isn't it working? And like the boys, you know, they'll have faith in me that, you know, I'll get my end of the stick done, you know, as long as they're lifting their end, you know. So like I'm really proud of them, and back and forth, you know, they put their faith in. They're like, hey, you know, if he's gonna put in the time to VOD review, like, it's at the end of the day, you know, we're a club, so we're not on scholarship or anything like that, but like we're in it, you know, 'cause we want to be here, not because we're forced to be here. You know, I'm not gonna ask any of them to be there, you know, if they don't want to be there.
Well, that was a very wholesome way to end on this.
Shit.
Sticking it out with your homies throughout the entire season to play some Rainbow Six and have a good time. That's a beautiful story. Yureen, you got anything you want to close out or ask any final questions?
No, I think I'm good.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us for our third episode of College Rainbow Six Leagues podcast. We got to come up with a catchy name here, Yureen.
We do.
it's wonderful to just call out the full thing, but let's come up with something. And then, if you guys want to follow us for more College Rainbow Six action, you can follow us on Twitter at CollegeR6. And then that is pretty much the only place you can follow us right now. You can search for Space Productions on YouTube for a full collection of our 2 other episodes. Hopefully more to come. We're super excited to keep this series going, and we've got an awesome list of guests for you coming up in the next couple of weeks. Make sure to tune in again next week at Tuesday at 6 o'clock Mountain Time, 5 o'clock Pacific Time, and then 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Haha! Okay, cool. Awesome. It's been wonderful. I am your host, Sam, and Yureen has also one of my wonderful co-hosts, setting all of this up behind the scenes and also asking wonderful questions. And then our 2 beautiful guests, Steph Noisy and then McGill Miggs. And it's been a pleasure. And we'll talk to you all again next Tuesday. Stay tuned.